in. It is the Wrestling Mat. We're starting a new week. It's a big week for yours truly. Big week in the wrestling world. I don't care about Columbus Day. Happy birthday to my dad. And happy Wrestling Day to all of you. We have a lot to get into. Shout out to Nerdy Dude in the chat. Joseph, Tombstoner Forever. Hassan, good to have you all here. The most interactive pro wrestling show is on the air, as it is every single weekday at thewrestlingmatshow.com here at 1 p.m. Eastern. Come become a member, a Mat member. We are going to be doing an AMA in the next 2 days. I will have that announced for you on our social media, where you can follow us at WrestlingMat23, Twitter, Instagram, The Mat Camp. We'll get that announcement out there, and to all the Mat members. If you want to become a Mat member, you can get in that members-only AMA at some point this week. But make sure you go over to WrestlingMatShow.com to subscribe for a Mat membership. You can subscribe for free to the YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcast. But here is how you can be part of our Mat membership perks. Right above Todd at $2.99 a month, Matt Camper at $6.99 a month, Matt Event at $24.99 a month. The members-only live chat is available for any membership tier and will be coming your way this week. So make sure you go check that out, whether you're watching live, you're watching after the fact, or you are listening. Thanks to our friends at the Believe Network, where you get your podcast. Please subscribe. Great way to help the show. Another great way to support the show and to show that you, hey, have great fashion sense is go to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat. We have multiple options there for you in terms of colors. And the more shirts we sell, the more offerings we can throw out into the world for you guys, hoodies and such. So head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat. If you're a Mat member, you do get discounts on that. A couple other people have shown up here. What's up to Franklin? Good to see everybody. People saying happy birthday to my dad. I'm sure he will appreciate that. I'll pass on those messages if anybody is asking what happened here. Don't push glass into a garbage can, and then you won't cut your hand and need 5 stitches. I did that on Friday, right before I did Bust It Open. Not a gimmick. Then I couldn't do Bust It Open because I had to get this stitched up, but was back on Bust It Open on the weekend, watched WrestleDream. I did not want to get into the level of Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, but I did by mistake. I'm okay. They just put the splint there just to make sure you're good. It's a cut right here. It's got stitches. I'll be fine. Another thing I will tell you is you are getting live shows today. You'll have something tomorrow, very likely Wednesday. However, that will be it for a week and a half. Why? I am getting married on Saturday. I think I have talked about that and how I've had people from both companies invited. Saturday, I'm getting married, so I'll be shutting down things probably Thursday, Friday. If I can get some bonus content done for you guys, I will certainly get it up there. But right now, Wednesday is the last definite live show we're going to do for the next week and a half. Then I'll be on honeymoon for a week. So just to give you guys a heads up on that, head over to the WrestlingMatShow.com. And go watch old stuff. Go listen to old podcasts. And, go check out some of the stuff we've talked about. It's a great week time to catch up on things. Thank you for all the congrats. Rob said the splint will come off a la Kevin Nash rising from the wheelchair. I'll just get up at the altar. And it's not even an altar. I don't think it's an altar. It's an arch of some kind. I'm getting married at a farm, a beautiful farm in Connecticut. So, there you go. The splint will come off. Boom. Yes, I'm getting married in the Metro and the NLCS, although let's hope that last night does not repeat itself in a few hours. 9-0. I had a feeling. I didn't expect to sweep the Dodgers. They're the best team in the league. But I had a feeling it might be a tough start. The starter didn't have it last night. That's what happened. It's okay, though. It's best of 7. Be honest, what curse word did you yell out when you cut your finger? There were a few Fs. But we're only 5 minutes into the show, and I don't want to say that for our monetization for YouTube. So there you go. City and Local, thank you for becoming a member once again. Always appreciate your support. Good to have you as a YouTube member. You'll get to be part, of course, our members-only AMA coming up this week. So appreciate that. I hate both teams, but I hate the Mets less. Sure, I get it. Here's the thing, and I'll get into wrestling stuff in a minute. I completely, 100% understand why people would be annoyed by the Mets. I get why the OMG thing would be annoying. I get why Grimace would be annoying. I get why a playoff pumpkin would be annoying. I got why people didn't like the trumpets last year. Totally get that. I would hate that too. Hey, at times I didn't like the trumpets either. It's like, hey, maybe we don't do so much fanfare every single time. I'm happy they're winning, but I get why it would annoy people. Totally get that. Then again, do you want to root for the Dodgers? I'm just saying. The Mets, I know the Mets have the big payroll, but it's not like that money's being dispersed over the guys you're actually seeing on the field. That money was spent in other ways. Anyway, go Mets. Good luck to anybody else's team out there. We get into wrestling now. The ending of WrestleDream, as I wrote about, which, by the way, I'll make that announcement quickly if you didn't check it out over the weekend. I am now writing a weekly AEW notebook-style column for DraftKings on the DK Network. That'll be going up pretty much every Friday now. You'll be getting that once a week on Fridays. My AEW, it's called From the Mat. Haha. And it will be going up on Fridays on the DraftKings Network. So shout out to DraftKings for bringing me aboard in that way. And thanks to you guys. Thanks to you guys once again, because, supporting this makes that kind of stuff happen. And I appreciate that. So make sure you go check out that column. Some of the stuff I've shared here on the show that we talked about, but it's basically my thoughts on where AEW is at on a weekly basis. And I will say, the ending of WrestleDream, I wrote about it, I talked about it on the show, was exactly what should have happened. We're going to talk about the ending of WrestleDream today. We're going to talk about Adam Cole and MJF being back in AEW. We're going to talk about Big Jim getting acknowledged by Roman Reigns on SmackDown. We're going to talk about where Kevin Owens is at right now. But WrestleDream ended exactly how it should have. Before I get to that, Nerdy Dude throwing us 10. What is that? What is that denomination? I should know that. Here are $10 so you could buy some Bermuda shorts during the honeymoon, Matt. Congratulations again on getting married. Did I say I was going to Bermuda? I am going to Bermuda. So there you go. Thank you very much, Nerdy Dude, as always. Rob sheds shades of the Daily News. The Slammer. Yes. Ask Lex Luger about the Slammer at WrestleMania 10 and how that may have changed things. It's also a little bit, if people are paying attention, it's a little bit like the Ross Report. Euros. Thank you for the Euros, Nerdy Dude. Yeah, I'm kind of definitely taking, if anybody remembers back in the day, JR doing the Ross Report, which was his late in the week, Friday, kind of news and notes thing, which was interesting because he was talent relations and he was the lead announcer for WWE, but he would write kind of a thoughts on what were going on, and you'd get some little news in there, and if you were paying attention, reading between the lines, JR would express a little bit more opinion than maybe you'd expect from somebody in his spot. I'm kind of going with that, where I'd like to see things go creatively, where people stand. All of that is in there, so go check that out. We'll be doing that on Fridays. Make sure you enjoy it. Make sure you check it out. All right. I'm not the informant. That's funny. I appreciate the congrats, everybody. Also, for those watching live, does the video quality look a little better today? And if it doesn't, that's okay. I think I fixed something, but if it does, let me know. The T-Pro was in the first row at WrestleDream. What a phenomenal experience. Fantastic show. Well, I haven't heard that opinion very much since Saturday, so let's get into it. I've teased it a few times. Bryan Danielson was at some point going to call it a full-time in-ring career. Bryan Danielson, I talked about this a ton over the weekend on Busted Open. Bryan Danielson is the most unselfish main event wrestler of all time. Bryan Danielson worked not one, but two WrestleMania main events he was not supposed to be in. He won the championship at one of them. He basically didn't even want to be in the second one. That is not a typical wrestler and certainly not a typical main event wrestler. Bryan Danielson did not wrestle to be a world champion all the time and be that dominant world champion. That was never what made Bryan Danielson special. Bryan Danielson is probably the greatest underdog in pro wrestling history. He could also be a vicious SOB. We saw that at Ring of Honor. We saw that during his heel world championship run leading into Kofi Mania. We've seen it at times in AEW. He could be a mean heel. He was good at it. He still is good at it. But he's the greatest underdog babyface of all time. There are people who will tell you that because of everything he's done in his career, that he finally should get to end something where he stands tall, and that's how he gets to leave. And I am sure there are people in AEW, Tony Khan included, and I'm not saying everybody thought this 100%. But if you, without looking at the current landscape of AEW, if you just said, how does Bryan Danielson go out? First of all, let's get this straight. You're going to see him again. You will see Bryan Danielson again. I don't know how much truth he is telling about how bad of shape he is in. I say this all the time. If a pro wrestler is doing an interview, you never have to take it at face value. It might be 100% the truth, but you don't have to take it at face value. Bryan Danielson has also joked, I love to lie. Cody Rhodes taught me how to lie. And it's harmless. His lies are harmless. Edge would do this about comebacks. So I don't know what you're talking about or whatever. Then he'd show up. People throw, a picture up on social media to indicate like, oh, I'm not in this place. You know what? All of that is harmless. They want you to be in on the ride. And you know what? We should, from a fan standpoint, want to take that ride. Because the story is better when you're willing to take the ride. And if you were willing to believe Bryan Danielson at face value, talking about how he couldn't get around on his kicks against Okada, how his neck is in terrible shape, how he needs surgery soon. That's the ride he wanted to put you on. That's the mentality he wanted to put you in heading into this match with Jon Moxley. Whether it's true or not, that added to the match. It was the reason Jon Moxley went after his neck as much as he did. I am so impressed at this stage of his career that Jon Moxley, who is now a 4-time AEW champion, a world champion everywhere he's gone, can adapt and change his style to fit what his current character is. Moxley can go out there and have a great professional wrestling match, and he can trade holes, and we know he's a brawler. We know he can be a great brawler. We know he has that chaotic nature to him. But what I saw on Saturday was a guy come out. I thought he looked like $1 million. I don't know if you can look more like a badass than Jon Moxley did. That walk, he circled the entire arena almost with Marino, who also looks like an absolute killer. He looked like no one should get near him. He looked like he could take on that entire arena, and they better give him space. Very dressed down. It is what I love about pro wrestling. It is the opposite of the conversations I have had about how I think pro wrestling can get too glossy. This was a man going out to carry out the duties that he laid out. This was not about a fancy entrance, even though it's the main event. This is not about looking cool or having people look back at this. No, this was a man going out to execute his game plan of taking out Bryan Danielson, both within the match and after the match. Doing what he has to do. And he looked like he was coming out to do exactly that. He went out there and he choked out Bryan Danielson when it was all said and done. But they jump-started that match. And I went back and watched it. That is how a feud that has gotten to this level should be. Punk and Drew got that wrong in the first match that they had at SummerSlam. They then got it completely right every interaction after that. You hate each other. You're going to fight. Danielson's not going to get up there and do this on the time. And Moxley's just going to watch. No, he attacked him. They played the music. He pulled his jacket over him. He fought him. Bryan fights back. He choked him with the wire. Then Bryan choked him with the wire. I mean, you did everything you could to fight, and they played the music. It was the first beats of the end of Bryan Danielson's career. That's what we got. That entrance, that music, that was the start of the end. When he walked out at All In, I tweeted and I said, he came out with a smile. And he looked so happy to be there. And I know a big part of it was because his family was in the front row and he was wrestling at Wembley. But I truly believed, knowing Danielson, that big smile at All In could have indicated he's about to win tonight, or he's about to have the match of his life and put Swerve over and go out on his shield. He won that night. When he came out on Saturday, I thought he was losing. I think it was on his face. I'm a little surprised it was on his face. There was a look out into that crowd when he walked out there. And believe me, he could have had this face whether he was winning or losing, but I saw the face, and it was him taking it in a way where, remember, I mean, I'll pull the curtain back. We know this is the case. He walked out through that curtain knowing what was going to happen. That's pretty impressive to me. To walk out there and go, okay, I'm going to have about a 30-minute match. And then we got about 5 to 10 minutes after that of, when I walk out through this curtain, I'm not walking back through this curtain. When I walk out here in about 40 to 45 minutes, I'm leaving on a stretcher unconscious. I think about that sometimes when I look back and go, when he walked out there, he knew what was happening. He knew everything that had to be executed. And he has to put in his brain, I'm going to walk out here, and with no breaks, no second takes, nothing like that, in 45 minutes, we have to execute a great match that takes people on a ride, that I lose, and then after the fact, hit multiple more beats of the story. And I know that the excitement people have right now as I walk out is going to be completely sapped from the room, from the arena. And it was. But he knew that. And Jon Moxley knew that. And Marina Shafir knew that. And everybody that was involved knew that in a way. But that crowd didn't know that. So Danielson can't give that away. He's got to go out there to execute what is going to be his last major story. And they go out and they have the match. And Moxley, just being that precise fighter who has to take care of this on his own. And he did. And he was vicious. And I don't think I've seen that many useful, important pile drivers in a match in forever. Yeah, we see destroyers and all that, and sometimes they get spammed. That was an attack on the man's neck because it had a target on it. And everything that he did was meant to put that neck in worse and worse shape. As bad as it could be. Because Danielson has given him that target. And Moxley, this is not a friend that is wrestling him, that is worried about that. This is not Will Osprey worrying about hitting a Tiger Driver. This is the complete opposite. And that is the mentality that Moxley and Marina and Claudio and Pac and now Yuta all have. There are no friendly matches. There are no exhibitions. There are no fights for pride. There are no fights and handshakes after the fact. That's so in the past. That is what they thought Bryan Danielson was doing incorrectly. He was being complacent. Now we attack, we win, we move on. They had an outstanding fight, personal, main event level world title match that the crowd was with after a pretty long night of a lot of matches, with multiple returns, of a lot of new directions in the best way possible. But it's a lot. You know, it was brought up that they saved the Lashley potential debut because there was so much going on. And I completely agree with that. And you knew, even after Takeshita wins, MJF comes back and Adam Cole comes back, and we'll get to that. And everything else that happened on the show. All noteworthy, all newsworthy, all important steps forward in the direction of the company. But they also knew that the lasting scene would be what we saw in the last 5 minutes of that show. And that was going to take precedence over everything. That's good planning to go, okay, let's keep Bobby Lashley off this. Let's keep Mercedes off this card, perhaps. I'm just saying. I don't know if that's all true. But it makes sense. When they finished Danielson and there was that reaction from the crowd, it was anger, disappointment, and sadness. And it was the exact emotions that should have come from the end of that show. I said it last week. I said it over the weekend. I'll say it again here. Bryan Danielson had to go out the way he did. City and Local just put up Bash at the Beach 96. I used that exact comparison over the weekend. You need to take that into an account. All In was the happiest thing you could possibly do. Bryan Danielson wins. His family's there, but you get him up here. The underdog gets his moment. It's a happy moment. What do they do at the next pay-per-view? They put a bag on his head. Hangman and Swerve had a vicious cage match that did not end happily. For God's sakes, you could see the guy who won the match and Hangman be conflicted almost in a way and yell, and am I going to go back to the... And it wasn't happy. But it was the right way to finish things. I forgot who posted it today. Grapple Clips or whatever. Posted, he said, oh, this is getting more traction. And it was something he had posted. It was the anniversary of Kevin Owens powerbombing Sammy into a defeat at a takeover. After Sammy had won the title and had that journey to get there. And then, of course, Kevin As they walk up the ramp and the NXT copyright bug comes up, he slams his head onto the ground. He beats the hell out of him. And then what happens? Kevin takes the title from him. I don't know why there was no complaining about that. That's a sad finish. That is a heel being as vicious as possible and putting down a babyface that everybody loves. And guess what? You were supposed to hate Kevin Owens, and people did. And I think that was important to do, much like I think it was important for Moxley's group to do this. Kevin Owens came into WWE with indie buzz. Regardless as if he had great work as a babyface or a heel, people were excited to see him in WWE. He was a babyface from his introduction. He beat C.J. Parker, Juice Robinson. People knew about the Kevin and Sammy connection. Babyface, babyface, babyface. Main event's over, and slam his head to the ground. And how do we hammer that home? Kevin beats him. He takes the title from him. We hate Kevin more. We feel worse for Sammy. We want Sammy to make his comeback. And you've established Kevin as a man, as a wrestler, as a fighter who will do whatever he needs to do to get the job done, even if it means taking out his best friend on the biggest night of his friend's career. That was the right bit of storytelling. We knew who the hell Kevin Owens was from the jump. And yes, he's gone babyface and heel, and now he's back to that. But it told the correct story. Bash at the Beats 1996 told the right story. It was shocking. Who was it done against? Macho Man, Sting, Lex Luger. Take out the big baby faces. Establish who the hell this group is. And I'm not saying Moxley and group are NWO. I don't want it to, I'm saying the level of heat that they had to generate to get themselves at the level they needed to be at going forward to establish who the hell the NWO was accomplished on that night. I go back to the Nexus. The Nexus, a week before they had that attack to end Raw, were on a game show that Wade Barrett happened to win. On a show that had Bryan Danielson chugging soda and running through the concourse. And what did that turn into? An absolutely shocking ending to Raw that made you pay attention, give credit and respect who the hell the Nexus was. They take out CM Punk and Luke Gallows. They take out the Straight Edge Society on the outside. Then they go in there and they wreck the guy, John Cena. And they beat up Justin Roberts. And they choke him out. And they rip up the... And you remember that because they had to establish who the hell they were. What'd they do? They took out Vince after that. They took out Ricky Steamboat. They took out Bret Hart. They were on a roll. They didn't book it correctly in the end. We know what happened at SummerSlam. We know what happened with Cena, what happened with Wade, and they threw that away. I don't know what's going to happen necessarily with this group that Moxley is leading. We will see if they land this plane. But so far, they've done exactly what they've needed to do to establish them. If there was anything that made you still like Jon Moxley, that made you still like Claudio, because no matter how they have been presented as babyface or heel, they've always had their supporters. I talked about this with Rey Mysterio. I talked about it with New Day. If you need people to get 100% classified as a piece of garbage heel, a vicious heel, a heel that will do anything to get the job done for themselves, you line them up against beloved babyfaces. There is no more beloved babyface in the last 15 years, and certainly not in current AEW, than Bryan Danielson. And the way to add to that even further is to say his in-ring career as a full-time wrestler is over. He lost the match. And we're going to do that in his home state. And as I said last week, It is not about him getting to wave goodbye to everybody. You got to go all in and pull this off. He went out exactly as he should have gone out. We will see him again. We won't see him again anytime soon. We should see him again in the weeks and day leading up to Jon Moxley losing the AEW World Championship. And we should see him helping Darby get there. The ending of Jon Moxley's AEW Championship reign, at least in my mind, has already been decided. The ending of Jon Moxley's AEW Championship reign, that picture was painted when he called out Darby Allin. I had this idea of Darby keeping the title shot he won from Royal Rampage and losing to Bryan at Grand Slam. And then Bryan doing the favor back for Swerve at WrestleDream. And that could have been fine. And Bryan gets to wave goodbye and Swerve gets to get his victory. But instead, now you have a chance to build up more. Now you have a chance to give the company a chase. And a chase makes money. A chase draws eyeballs. A chase gets people to pay for a ticket. A chase says, I want to be on that journey because the destination is going to be sweet. And that chase has already begun for Darby Allin. No chase should be easy. Him losing the way he did. Not only to Moxley at Grand Slam. Him losing to Jack Perry. You know what else he lost this year? He lost Sting. He was there for the end. And Sting has still had his back, but it's not the same. Darby Allin has been a foundation of AEW. He will remain that. He is beloved. He's an underdog in his own right. He is fearless. He's got a magnetism about him across all ages. He gives you nothing less than 100% in and out of the ring. And he's never been AEW World Champion. We've seen former WWE guys, Moxley, Chris Jericho, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, all be AEW World Champions, Samoa Joe. We've seen Hangman win that title. We've seen Kenny win that title. But now, you have a chance to tell Darby's story. And it won't be Darby first, and nor should it. They told the story with the pictures and the camera shots of where they need to go and where they will go in the last 5 to 10 minutes of that show. This was not just about building one person. It sent Yuta somewhere no one would have expected him to go. He's now on board. Wheeler Yuta, who 5 years ago I remember watching him play the steel drum on his social media for fun, to seeing, I worked a show with him in front of 80 people. Probably a year before he got signed to AEW. Very nice boy, Wheeler Yuta. Put him in the fighting group. And they go back and forth between babyface and heel. He never got a ton out of it, but I think in the last month he's gotten more. He has been elevated by this story. Claudio is the biggest heel he's ever been because of this story. Pac is as well, and absolutely Jon Moxley is. There is no reason whatsoever you should like Jon Moxley. I come back to this idea of, well, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to have to do it. And I wish it wasn't you. And that's where I say he's a heel who is lying. That's where I say, yeah, but who is the AEW World Champion? Oh, you didn't want to have to do it. Oh, cool. Why didn't Claudio have to take him out then? Why didn't Pac have to take him out? No, you did it. So you, Jon Moxley, the self-proclaimed king of these lands, could be the AEW World Champion. Jon Moxley, make no mistake about it, earned a prize on Saturday for something he, quote, didn't want to do. And yet, if he didn't want to do it, he got one hell of a reward for something that he didn't want to do. And who do we see come out to make the save? Darby Allin gets tied up in the corner, of course. Here comes Private Party. They get kicked away. Here comes one of the consciences of AEW, Jeff Jarrett. He gets kicked away. And they continue to go to work, and the bag stays on, and they do the chair with the neck. I mean, as much heat as you could put on it. Here come more baby faces. Here comes Garcia. Here comes Adam Cole. Here comes Hook. They finally chase him out of there. And you get the imagery of Blackpool Combat Club during a hostile crowd getting the hell out of there. I loved Claudio throwing that title in the bag. This is ours now. Good luck getting it back. They threw it in a bag like pirates. These are our spoils. We know who gets that spoil. But this is ours now. We've taken this from you. We've taken this from your guy. We've taken this from the man who was standing up for AEW. And now it's ours. And you got the image of Bryan Danielson motionless on a night where we already knew his in-ring career as a full-time wrestler was over. With oxygen, with Darby pleading, no. With Orange being out there. With commentary being beside themselves. I thought at one point to sell the seriousness of the whole thing with those repeated attacks by Marina in the main event that maybe Nigel, who got the headset knocked off him by Moxley, might jump in there and go, I don't like him, but he is not going to have his career go away because it happens like this. And he never got involved. I do think there's an opportunity to do that. I'll get right into that now. Wednesday's Dynamite can't go anywhere without this kicking off the show. I don't see how you open with MJF or Adam Cole or Mariah May or the Bucks. No. This is the story. It is still a hot topic of discussion, which is exactly what you want. This is the story. Who steps up to them? They framed it pretty obviously. I think Orange is first. You're going to line up baby faces. How often did I talk about with Cody? Anytime a first-time babyface, you need a heel factory. They really haven't had that for Cody. Hogan had a heel factory to run through. Roman had a babyface factory to run through. Jon Moxley should now have a babyface factory to work with for the next 4 to 5 months, if not longer. You have that. These people will have to lose, though. City and Local just brought up the Jerry Lynn segment. I thought that was a little weird. I thought that was a little ham-fisted. Like they're hitting us over the head with that. I would have done that after. I would have done that in a different way. Jerry said, hey, you can be one of the guys to step up against these guys. Doing it during the show is fine. I would have done it after. I would have had a Jerry Lynn on Wednesday. Hell, I would have had it, if you want to really make it more real, I would have shot something that they caught on camera. I would have had Jerry Lynn out there after the show was over, when they were getting officials out there and all that stuff, and you catch Jerry Lynn and OC walking to the back, and Jerry Lynn having that, hey, you can be the guy. You can be the guy to step to these people. You can be the guy to stop this. We see what they're capable of, but you can do this. I'm not in it. It's not that big of a deal, but it would have come across a little bit more real as opposed to doing just like here's a segment with Orange and Renee for some reason that leads to, like, you could have made it a little more real and a little bit more almost humanizing of Orange Cassidy. Because you could see the despair on his face with Darby on the outside. That was framed exactly as it needed to be. Here's going to be the first challenger for Jon Moxley, and the last one is sitting next to him. They connected Darby well with Bryan Danielson. This story gives AEW a chase. They haven't had a chase, a long chase, in a while. Danielson won the Owen. He was champ soon after, just as we connect everything. Swerve won the title, really coming off the feud with Hangman and the stuff with Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe won the title, not in a big chase, kind of as a part of the Devil's story with MJF. And MJF had it for forever, and it wasn't like he was on a big chase. One of the things that made NXT special at the beginning was having people to believe in. And they had two people at the same time, pretty much. They had Sami Zayn and they had Bayley. We can't wait to see them win. We're going to go on this ride with them. It's going to be tough. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be losses. There's going to be near victories. But when they get it, man, is that going to be sweet. Cody Rhodes, he's going to win at WrestleMania. He didn't. I hate this. He should have won. How does he get back? He goes through Brock Lesnar. He finds help with Jimmy Uso. He starts to find ways to get inside the bloodline, to crack it. And then we get the all-star finish of all-star finishes at WrestleMania this year, and the story completes, and the chase is over. But, man, did we make a lot of fans? Did we get a lot of people excited about that chase? Did we sell a lot of tickets? This is Darby Allin's chase. This is a chance to run with Darby Allin as the conquering babyface of this group who should run roughshod over the entire company for a good chunk of time. It's good business in my mind. And a lot of people are upset that they had such an unfortunately sad, unsatisfying finish for a pay-per-view they paid for. You can't have it both ways. You can't tell me they don't tell stories, and then they tell a big one. And you say, well, it's a pay-per-view. I didn't want it to go that way. Guess what? That is good writing. I'll tell you what this was. Spoilers ahead for Breaking Bad, newbies. This was the Ricin episode. This was the one that closed that season. I won't give it away even further if you haven't watched the show. Someone you didn't want to see taken out got taken out. And it was sad, and it was heavy. And it makes you hate Jon Moxley. And it makes you want to see them get beat. It made you care because you love Bryan Danielson. And you don't want his career to end that way. And tough shit, it did. So point that anger where it belongs. Point it at Jon Moxley. Point it at Yuta. Point it at Marina. Point it at Pac. Point it at Claudio. And go get behind the people you want. Who's going to knock them off? Who's going to shut these people up? I hate them. Good. You should. Are people as mad about this if it's on television? Is it okay if it's on television? Here's another thought I had. It feels like people didn't like that because Jon Moxley was already a multiple-time world champion, already established as one of the guys of AEW. I think it felt to me like a little bit of people were pissed off about that. Well, we already know it's yeah, but this is a different version. He also has a shit ton of credibility to be able to do that. I believed he could pull that off. Maybe there were people that didn't want to boo Jon Moxley because you've liked him for so long. Sure. Now he's given you no reason to do anything but boo him. That's the correct answer. Abby just said, if you were there, the deflation of the crowd in the Tacoma Dome was intense. It took us many hours to recover from what we saw. Yes. Go on the ride. Take the ride. Enjoy the ride. You don't watch dramatic television for happy endings all the time. You watch it to see where things go. If the good guy won easily all the time, it would be boring. And sometimes the bad guys win battles, and sometimes, like we saw on Saturday, the bad guys start wars. Earlier in the night, we got a TNT title match that led to 3 other people appearing. Jungle Boy, Jack Perry takes care of Shibata, whatever. They do the post-match. He goes after him. Daniel Garcia comes out, as I thought. And they position 2 young guys in AEW up against each other. And Garcia gets to have his moment, and then here comes MJF. And instead of having MJF beat down Garcia, Jack Perry comes back in to take him down. So MJF lets it happen, and I love, this was such a good small thing. He starts punching Garcia, and he's going, "Are you okay, Danny? Are you okay? Are you okay?" Because he's not okay. And it was just great straight up heel stuff. Let me beat you down. I found the ring, and I'm going to make you kiss it. So now you've had a heel pick the bones that another heel took advantage of. And here comes Adam Cole. And initially, MJF sold it of like, he's here, and then he laughed. Like, you're going to do walk? What are you going to... And he takes off running, which was such a good detail. And here comes Adam Cole, and MJF bails. And he is Adam Cole, babyface. Everybody in the place loves him. Thrilled to see him. He helps up Garcia, gives him the fist pound. Later in the night, they bring him out with the rest of the babyfaces. There ain't a doubt in anyone's mind. That man right there, who people want to love, can now be loved again. And they have now fixed, at least in current positioning, the dynamics of the MJF and Adam Cole story. MJF is always better as a heel. Adam Cole can do both, but you lean into what people want to do, and they've always wanted to cheer Adam Cole since the minute he stepped foot in AEW on that same night as Bryan Danielson. MJF took him out as a heel. Adam Cole being the heel, MJF as the babyface. MJF has turned heel since then. And guess what? We can continue on the story. And the right guy's going to get cheered, and the right guy's going to get booed, and they're going to get way more out of this. That was well done. You're also going to get Garcia and Jack Perry out of this. And that was well done. So a match turned into two angles with two big returns and with two stories that probably have a decent amount of juice in them. Certainly MJF and Adam Cole. And I think Garcia and Jack Perry, I threw out the idea, I don't know if it was here or on the radio over the weekend, of I'd have them trade that TNT title for a couple months. Nobody can get the upper hand for too long. That's okay. You can have quick title changes. Let them trade it. Rock and Triple H did that in 2000. Two guys that are damn near the top of their game, and it's like a best-of-7 series like we're watching in sports right now in baseball. You might be good enough to win one, but it's hard to win two in a row. It's hard to put this guy down twice in a row. Hey, let them trade it off a little bit. Let that be a hotly contested title. I would have Garcia come out on top in the end, but yeah, let them trade it a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The Takeshita thing in the triple threat match, great match. Not easy to do. I wanted a clean finish. I'm happy with the result of the match, if that makes sense. Because I think it set up other good things. I thought Takeshita would beat Ricochet, or Osprey would beat Ricochet, and they do some kind of rematch. Instead, Don gets involved, and Kyle Fletcher's the one who turns on Osprey. And if you've been watching the show long enough, I am a huge Kyle Fletcher fan. I think there's a lot of money in him. You want to elevate him, put him in there against Will Ospreay with a personal story that is right there. Though all of this stuff now and the interaction of and Will, I would even say you can tell the story of him letting his guard down. And after leaving the Don Callis family peacefully, he got dragged back into it because of Kyle. And I think they got to make a point to say Don knew what he was doing the whole time. That Don pulled him back in under the false pretenses that he was helping his friend. No, Kyle wanted to get him close so he could make his name at the expense of Will Ospreay. That's the story to tell, and you have Takeshita maybe go up against Ricochet. He's got a title now. Fletcher, the T-Pro just said it, Fletcher comes across better in person than on TV. He is massive. He's not bulky jacked. He's in great shape. He's probably leaner than I'd like him to be for a big run, but he is tall. He's a big guy. He's got great presence, and him and Ospreay can do some real good stuff. I would have expected Will to be in the position to elevate somebody, and I wouldn't expect Will to be in the position that we would think he would need to elevate somebody, or, less than a year into his full-time AEW career. I think we would probably be talking more about Ospreay will be world champ at this point in time. But he has gotten so over, and he has become so important and such a fan favorite that even though he has lost to Swerve, he's lost to MJF, and now he lost the triple threat, he's still super over. He's still one of the biggest stars that they have. There's no doubt about that. His entrance is a big deal. It's a happening when he's around. And I think Ospreay is over enough in that company that him being in any kind of feud is an attraction. So Kyle Fletcher's getting a rub from that. And if Kyle Fletcher gets a victory over Ospreay, it elevates him even more. As it's been brought up here by City and Local, Ospreay versus Fletcher culminates in Australia. We'll see. But Kyle Fletcher should be a big deal heading into Grand Slam Australia next year. I think WrestleDream set a lot of new things in motion. I enjoyed the show. One thing I really liked that I haven't had a chance to talk about yet, I loved the graphics. I loved how specific the graphics were. They had for older fans, a Spring Stampede-esque quality to them. WCW was always good about leaning into the theme of their pay-per-views as it related to their graphics and the mountains and all that stuff and the way the fonts were. I thought it was pretty cool. I also love how the Tacoma Dome looks on TV. They got some really good shots. And if you haven't noticed that they've been influenced by how WWE has been shooting their shows, and I don't mean that as a bad thing, but they have definitely added some new camera shots and ways of presenting. They had a shot, I think it was on TV the other week, where they basically walked from the back corner of the arena around to almost down the middle where the announcers were. And they took a camera shot from the corner and just walked it into towards the ring. And it was it was the fan perspective from the ground. Like it looked cool. I present the show in different ways. If you looked at their hard camera shot, watching, the main shot, it took it a little bit more elevated. And New Japan has done that at times, depending on where they shoot, as opposed to WWE, which shoots it a little bit more straight on. It's a little bit more of an elevated look. It's just a different perspective. So I like that they're trying things out, and I like that they look different. You want to look different from other people. You want to look different from other presentations. You want to try new camera shots and present people in different ways. I can't remember who it was on the top rope. I don't know if it was Daniel or somebody, but they took a big crane shot while there was work being done on the corner. On the closest corner, and they took a crane shot to capture all of that in the reversals, and it just looked like those two, whoever, I can't remember who it was, they looked larger than life. It was very much a spotlight on them of everybody's clearly seeing these guys battle on the top rope, and I liked it. Did you watch the scrum? If you did, what did you think about the Mariah May portion of it? What does that mean for her character gimmick? So I heard about it. I didn't see it yet. I admittedly fell asleep, and when I heard Tony wasn't going to be on it, whether he was, they were playing up the Danielson thing. My guess is he had to go fly to London for the Jaguars game yesterday. I had heard people saying like she didn't get good questions and she blew them off. I admittedly did not see it. I heard about it, so I don't have an opinion on it, but I'll give you more on that. Let's get into a couple WWE things here. They opened SmackDown with Jimmy Uso, and it made Jimmy Uso feel the biggest he's ever felt. They gave the crowd a chance to pop for him, to spotlight him, and it worked. He came out there, and people were happy that he came back. They haven't seen him in 6 months. Anybody who they are familiar with and like even a little bit, when they're back after a long time, and obviously he had been in main event stories for years, they were happy to see him again. He also came out to save Roman. He also came out to help Cody. Babyface connection right there. And he gets to come out, and they're big. And Jimmy has not been, and I talked about this, Jay's ahead of Jimmy. Bottom line, he's a better overall performer. He's better on the mic. But Jimmy had his best appearance, non-wrestling, ever on Friday. Talking was good. When Roman came out, there was an appreciation. They came together, and Roman straight up makes the people acknowledge Big Jim. And for the first time in a long time, and maybe really ever, Roman saying he's not lesser than me. I want you to, Roman basically saying, I'm going to acknowledge him. You should acknowledge him too. That's a lot. Just think of who Roman is. Doing that makes Roman likable, even more so. It makes Jimmy Uso a bigger deal. And then Jimmy calls for the mic and Roman slaps it away, and it was fun. Roman still runs the show, but that's okay. And Roman, we're the GOATs, and I don't have my title, and I don't have my tribe. And Jimmy's like, hey, man, we're not the GOATs. You don't have the Ulafala. You're a man without a tribe. We need help. And they never say Jay's name. And they let the crowd do it for them, which is a great bit of, hey, this is how we have the people. We have the people. No yeet. You didn't tease it for it to not happen. Okay? That's going to happen. I wasn't sure. I laid out my whole stuff with KO and all that. They're going in a different direction. But what this is going to lead to, because we saw it at the end of the show, was Jimmy get beat. And then him and Roman get laid out, because you have to give that new version of the Bloodline a ton of credibility. And they may get that anyway if The Rock's behind all this, but it's not official yet. So yeah, you got to put Roman down. He's a babyface. You got to put Jimmy down. And they caught that stuff after him. Man, we need help. We got to go get him. And Roman is going to have to eat crow. And if I was in charge of it, I would have Jimmy say to Roman, I don't need this anymore, man. I found my way. I'm the Intercontinental Champion. These people are behind me. I got friends over there on Raw. And that's a hint to Sami Zayn. We'll get to that in a second. I don't need to be beside you anymore. And Roman has to acknowledge Jay. Roman has to say, yeah, man, I know. You've done good. I'm proud of you. Maybe I didn't appreciate you the first time around, but I'm telling you now, we need you. That can't come from Jimmy. I like the idea of Heyman maybe going over first to recruit, but Jay should make it clear. If he wants me, he can come talk to me. And I'll hear him out, but no promises. It's got to be Roman, hat in hand. I don't want him to be begging or sniveling or pleading or on a knee. He just has to do what he did for Jimmy. They got something big to go with there. And then, like I said, they're going to need a fourth. I don't think that fourth is Hikuleo. I think that fourth is Sami Zayn. And Jay's the one who can make that happen. And I think the story they need to tell is, hey, we know how dangerous a group like that can be. We know what we did. We can't let that happen again. And Roman's got a lot of convincing to do to other people that it's not about him. This is not about his goals, even though he wants to be WWE champion again. But he has to pay his penance to multiple people to get them back on his side, to help him. And by the way, if Sami Zayn does decide to stand alongside Roman Reigns and Jimmy and Jey Uso, you know who that's going to piss off? Kevin Owens, who's already mad at Cody, who's now mad at Randy Orton. And good God, why wouldn't he be mad at Sami after all that they went through? Sami decided to back Roman once again. And dare I say, we could revisit Kevin Owens, heel, babyface Sami Zayn, again in WWE, and the story would still be fresh. Now you'd be revisiting it with both guys in the main event and being at main event level. And moving on to KO. I don't know if they have executed anything as well with KO as they have in the last couple of weeks. From being initially quiet and not as mad at Cody, but this has all started. I mean, it's been going on for a while. This is obviously long term, but Kevin and Cody back towards the bloodline started near Money in the Bank. And then obviously Kevin getting the title shot that he didn't want, but as long as Roman didn't get it. And then, they have the match and they're friendly, but in the week of it got contentious and then Cody wins. And okay, Kevin's fine with that, but what does it lead to? And now Cody tags with Roman and Kevin beat him up outside of his bus after Bad Blood. And then on SmackDown, because remember, that Kevin Cody thing has not appeared on WWE socials. That is using a very active fan base to further their storylines. And they did. And you had Triple H tweet about it, and that was it. You had on Raw them try to mention it, and nope, we're not going to talk about it. And then on SmackDown, we know Cody's in the building or whatever. And here comes Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend. They get their full entrance up until Kevin comes out like he walked to the crowd like he wasn't supposed to be there, with a microphone in hand, with his hoodie on, almost like he snuck in. And he wasn't maniacal. He apologizes. I'm sorry, but where is Cody? Let's do this. And here comes Cody with no pomp and circumstance, with no title, with him walking out with no music. I'm taking my jacket off. I don't care that Lash and Jakar in front of me. I got to go fight this guy because what he did on Saturday. And they cut his mic, and then he gets on the headset. And then here comes Randy as the peacemaker, and Randy gets between Kevin, and then Kevin throws a back elbow. So Randy doesn't throw like what would be a typical in-ring working punch. He punches him in the face to go like Kevin. Not that he was turning on Kevin himself. It was more like, dude, what are you doing? And then we get the argument later on, and then Kevin kicks the shit out of Randy. After Randy had told Cody, hey, as he puts the title on his shoulder and he touches it, and they lingered on that. You go on your bus, you got this. We're going to get to Randy and Cody. We're going to see how this all goes. But Kevin is now similar to Drew. Maybe you don't agree with his actions, but you can understand his thought process. Are you kidding me? 4 years of me dealing with these guys, me having your back against these guys, and now you're going to go tag with them? And you're going to stand next to Jimmy Uso? The Rock came out. You know he's with them, whether he's not or whatever. Kevin can have that argument. Then he's mad at Randy. Why are you not with me? I'm going to beat you. He is starting to lose it. He's starting to say, am I the only one like seeing all this? And you would be right to understand that, yeah, God, why would Kevin want to deal with this? There is justification. Do you like that he's beating people up? Because he hasn't been beaten up by Randy, and he hasn't been beaten up by Cody Rhodes. He's just so furious that he's literally beating them to the punch. And now I wonder, is it not Randy, but perhaps KO, who finds a way to take the title off of Cody for a couple months? Cody should walk into WrestleMania with the championship. Don't get me wrong. But does it solidify his direction and character a little bit more if he finds a way to take that title off of Cody just for a little bit of time? I don't think it would be bad to have Cody chase for a little while. You get it on him for WrestleMania season, all that stuff. You definitely do that. And, of course, you got Randy in the mix as well, and, we'll see where he ends up siding. Hell, maybe it's Rock Roman at WrestleMania, and maybe it's Randy Cody at WrestleMania. Maybe we will get there. I don't know. But, man, they got a lot of things that they can fire out there. I thought SmackDown was the best show it has been in quite some time. It is I think everything for the most part on the show mattered and it was important. And now you have strengthened your main event by separating the Bloodline stuff from the Cody stuff. And you have multiple participants in both stories. And there's a lot more to do with that. Real quickly here, Nerdy Dude says, what was your reaction to Judgment Day and Rhea showing up? I honestly enjoyed it, but Raquel looked a bit misplaced, almost like, oh, I need to fall on this railing and then do this. Listen. I don't know if they're still finding their footing with that. Raw is taped tonight. I won't I won't spoil it, but I think as we have seen, and they already announced Cody, we're going to see some crossover now, at least until Crown Jewel because of those 2 title matches. And I will say I like the idea, and I've said this many times, of people that can't have tunnel vision. Cody has Gunther at Crown Jewel. We saw that confrontation on Raw. Then he's dealing with Bloodline stuff and Randy and Kevin, and he's saying, go take care of that. And he's dealing with Kevin, and he's dealing with Randy, and he's dealing with Gunther, and sure, the Bloodline stuff doesn't go away. And then you have Liv, who's lined up for Nia, but Nia's dealing with maybe Naomi. She's got Miss Money in the Bank standing next to her, who knows what's going to happen there. And then Liv, who's got to deal with Nia, also still has to worry about Rhea. So just because they have other matches announced doesn't mean that their other opponents are going to go away. And that happened far too often under Vince, where it's just tunnel vision. Oh, Roman's getting beat up by whoever. Well, his friend is Seth Rollins, but he's not around right now. Or he's in another story, so he doesn't care. I hated that stuff. You have multiple main event people dealing with multiple opponents at the same time. That will take us to Crown Jewel. That will take us to Survivor Series and beyond. It's a great spot to be in. And I'll be in a great spot tomorrow because I'll be back here for you on the Wrestling Mat at 1 p.m. Eastern when I'll be back to talk about wrestling even more. Thanks, everybody, for checking in on me, and the congratulations. Make sure if you haven't become a Mat member, you do so. In the next day or two, we will do a members-only AMA right here on the show. Go to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat, and you can get your Wrestling Mat merch. Subscribe where you get your podcast. Subscribe for free on the YouTube channel. Head over to WrestlingMatShow.com. Become a member. And I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern right here on the Wrestling Mat.